Flights are $1,500 each, my dad said. If you cannot afford it, stay behind. I nodded, then got an alert. My credit card had been used for 4 business class tickets, not mine. I opened my app, hit dispute all, locked the account. At check-in, my sister texted, "WHY is nothing paid for." I texted back, "What you said, I stayed behind." The words hung there on my phone screen like a declaration of war. But this wasn't the beginning of our story, it was the end of it. The real beginning happened 6 months earlier, when I was still foolish enough to believe that family meant something other than a banking arrangement. I'm Renley, and I work as a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital of Denver. 12-hour shifts, screaming toddlers, exhausted parents, and the kind of emotional weight that follows you home and sits on your chest while you try to sleep. But I loved it. Still do. What I didn't love was coming home to my cramped studio apartment, still in my scrubs, to find 17 missed calls from my family. The calls were always the same. My sister Brooklyn needed money for her wedding dress alterations. My mom needed help with a mortgage because Dad's construction business was having a slow month, again. My brother-in-law, Tyler, needed someone to co-sign for his 3rd failed business venture. And somehow, I was always the solution. "You're single, Renley," my mother would say, her voice carrying that familiar edge of manipulation disguised as concern. "You don't have anyone depending on you. We're your family, we should be able to count on each other." Count on each other. That phrase haunted me because it was never mutual. When I got food poisoning from the hospital cafeteria and spent 3 days unable to keep water down, I called my mom for help. "Oh honey, I wish I could, but Brooklyn's having her engagement party this weekend and I promised to help with decorations. You understand, right?" I always understood. That was my role, the understanding one, the responsible one, the one with the steady paycheck and no kids to worry about. The one who could sacrifice without anyone noticing. But it was more than just money. It was the way they talked about my life like it was somehow less important than theirs. "You work in healthcare, you don't need fancy clothes," Brooklyn would say while borrowing my credit card for a $400 outfit. "It's not like you go anywhere special." Special. As if my life was a waiting room for their real emergencies. The pattern had been building for years, but that night, the night before they announced the Cabo trip, I was sitting at my kitchen table, calculator in hand, trying to figure out how to pay rent after Tyler's emergency car repair had maxed out my credit card. Again. I didn't know it then, but I was about to discover just how deep their betrayal ran. The text came at 2:47 a.m., right as I was finishing a double shift. Brooklyn's message was casual, almost cheerful. "Can you move your payday up? Mom wants to book the resort in Cabo and we're running short." I stared at the message, my fingers still cold from the hand sanitizer I'd been using all night. "What payday?" I typed back. I wasn't invited to Cabo. The response came with a string of palm tree emojis and a laughing face. "Family trip. Sun, sand, and margaritas. Don't worry about the details, we've got it handled." That's when I called my mother. "Oh, Renley, sweetie," she said, her voice bright with that artificial cheer she used when she was about to ask for something. "Don't worry about the trip planning. Everything's already booked. We just need a little help with the upgrade to business class. You know how Tyler's back acts up on long flights." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Wait. You're asking me to pay for upgrades on a trip I'm not even going on?" Silence. Then the tone changed, sharpened. "Look, Renley, if you wanted to come, you should have said something earlier. But the flights are $1,500 each. If you can't afford that, then maybe it's better you sit this one out. No hard feelings. No hard feelings." As if my exclusion from the family vacation was just a minor scheduling conflict. As if I hadn't been funding their lifestyle for the past 3 years. I hung up without another word, my hands shaking with something I couldn't quite name yet. Anger? Hurt? Or maybe just the final crack in a dam that had been straining for too long. Then came the notification. My phone buzzed with a credit card alert, $6,000 charged for 4 business class tickets to Cabo. 4 tickets. Mom, Dad, Brooklyn, and Tyler. My card, my name on the account, but I wasn't even going. I opened my banking app with fingers that felt numb. There it was, the charge that would overdraw my account, the final straw that would leave me eating ramen for the next month while they sipped cocktails on the beach. But this time, something was different. This time, I wasn't sad or resigned. I was furious. I tapped dispute all charges and watched as each transaction turned red. Then I locked the account entirely. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about their feelings or their reactions. I was thinking about justice. The next morning, I was brushing my teeth when my phone exploded with notifications. Text after text from Brooklyn, each one more frantic than the last. Why is nothing paid for? We're at the airport. The tickets aren't working. Call me now. And then, the one that made me smile despite everything, what did you do? I rinsed my mouth, looked at myself in the mirror, and typed the most liberating sentence of my life. What you said, I stayed behind. Then I did something I'd never done before. I turned off my phone and went back to bed. When I finally turned it back on 6 hours later, I had 43 missed calls and a voicemail from my father that started with, "Renley, I don't know what game you're playing, but you need to fix this right now." Game. As if finally standing up for myself was some kind of childish prank. But I wasn't playing games anymore. I was done being their personal ATM, done being the responsible one who cleaned up everyone else's messes. I was done being grateful for the privilege of funding their adventures while I lived paycheck to paycheck. That afternoon, I did something I'd been dreaming about for months. I opened a travel website and booked my own trip. Not to Cabo, I couldn't afford that after years of supporting them, but to a quiet bed and breakfast in Vermont, where I could hike and read and eat meals without calculating the cost. It was modest, but it was mine. All mine. The next day, my mother showed up at my apartment. I saw her through the peephole, still in her traveling clothes, looking smaller and more tired than I'd ever seen her. She knocked softly at first, then harder. "Renley? Open the door. We need to talk." I didn't move. I sat on my couch, listening to her plead through the door, and for the first time in my life, I felt something I'd never experienced before, power. "Your father flew back early," she called out. "He's worried sick. We all are. Whatever we did, we can fix it. But you have to let us try." Fix it. As if this was just another problem that could be solved with the right words, the right apology. As if years of financial abuse could be undone with a conversation. But I wasn't ready to forgive. I wasn't even ready to listen. They didn't give up easily. My father came back the next day, this time with my mother. They stood in my hallway for 20 minutes, taking turns knocking and calling my name. I timed them. "Renley, this is ridiculous," my father said, his voice carrying that familiar edge of authority. "You're acting like a child. We're your family." Family. That word had lost all meaning for me. Family didn't steal from each other. Family didn't exclude someone and then expect them to pay for the privilege. The texts from Brooklyn were relentless. "You're being completely unfair. Do you know what you've done? We had to downgrade our flights and pay out of pocket. Do you realize how embarrassing that was?" Embarrassing. Not wrong, not hurtful, embarrassing. Because apparently, the real crime wasn't using my credit card without permission, it was getting caught. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a calculator and a notebook, just like I'd done so many times before. But this time, I wasn't trying to figure out how to make ends meet. I was adding up everything they owed me. $400 for Brooklyn's engagement party dress, never repaid. $2,800 for Tyler's emergency car repair. $650 for my father's dental work. $300 for groceries my mother forgot to pay me back for. $6,000 for the Cabo tickets they'd charged without permission. The total was staggering, $10,150. I stared at that number for a long time, feeling something shift inside me. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about respect, about boundaries, about the value of my own life and work. I opened my laptop and started typing. Subject: outstanding balance and future financial boundaries. Dear family, per your repeated statements that family should be there for each other, please find attached a detailed breakdown of financial support I have provided over the past 2 years. As of today, I will no longer be subsidizing family expenses. Full repayment is expected within 30 days. After that, I will be filing formal reports with my credit card company regarding unauthorized use of my account. No further financial assistance will be provided moving forward. Renley. I attached the spreadsheet and sent it to our family group chat before I could change my mind. The response was immediate and explosive. My phone buzzed with message after message, each one more outraged than the last. Are you seriously sending an invoice to your own family? This is cruel and unnecessary. We raised you better than this. But the one that broke something inside me was from my mother. I don't know who you are anymore. And for the first time in my life, I smiled at those words. Because I wasn't the person they used to walk all over anymore. A week later, I got an unexpected message on Facebook from someone I hadn't heard from in years, Carmen Rodriguez, Tyler's ex-wife. She was a sharp corporate lawyer who'd moved to Seattle after their divorce, and I'd always respected her intelligence and no-nonsense attitude. Hey Renley. I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I heard about what happened with your family, and I think you should know some things about Tyler that they've been hiding from you. She sent me a file, a PDF full of screenshots and bank records. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was evidence of something I'd never suspected. Tyler had been gambling again. Not just small amounts, but thousands of dollars on cryptocurrency and online poker. And when his losses mounted, he'd been stealing from a joint account my parents had given him access to for family emergencies. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the email chain between my parents and Carmen, dated 6 months earlier. My mother's words were burned into my brain. Please don't tell Renley about this. We'll handle it ourselves. She doesn't need to know. They'd known. They'd all known about Tyler's gambling problem, and they'd been using my money to cover his debts. Every emergency loan, every temporary charge on my credit card, it had all been part of their scheme to protect Tyler from the consequences of his addiction. I called Carmen immediately. I wasn't sure if I should tell you, she said, her voice gentle but firm. But I couldn't keep watching them bleed you dry. You deserve to know the truth. Why now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Because you're finally doing what I should have done years ago, walking away. And I thought you deserved to know that your instincts were right. That night, I printed every page of evidence, every screenshot, every bank record. I organized it all in a folder and placed it on my kitchen counter. For the first time in months, I slept peacefully. The next morning, I updated my invoice. The new total, including interest and fees for the emotional manipulation, $12,847. But I didn't send it to them. I sent it to my Aunt Rebecca, my father's sister, who'd always been the truth teller in our family. Let her decide what to do with it. 2 days later, I got a call from my father. His voice was different, smaller, defeated. Renley, I don't know what to say. We made mistakes. But you've made your point. Can we please talk? I typed one sentence and sent it back. You're not entitled to grace you never earned. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of possibility. For the first time in years, I had money in my bank account. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of everyone else's problems. I started therapy with Dr. Martinez, a kind woman who specialized in family trauma. In her office, I learned words for what had happened to me: financial abuse, emotional manipulation, parentification. I learned that what I'd experienced wasn't normal, wasn't love, wasn't what family was supposed to be. You were trained to be their solution, Dr. Martinez said during one session. But you're not responsible for fixing other people's problems, even if they're related to you. I started dating again, really dating, not just grabbing coffee between shifts because I was too exhausted to do anything else. I met Jackson at a hospital fundraiser, a high school teacher with kind eyes and a laugh that made me forget about everything else. When I told him about my family, he didn't try to fix it or minimize it. He just listened. I'm proud of you, he said, taking my hand. It takes courage to choose yourself. Choose yourself. No one had ever framed it that way before. My life began to bloom in ways I'd never imagined. I took a pottery class, joined a hiking group, started cooking elaborate meals just for myself. I bought new scrubs in colors I actually liked, not just the cheapest ones at the uniform store. But the best part was the absence of anxiety. No more checking my phone every few minutes, bracing for the next financial emergency. No more calculating whether I could afford groceries after someone else's crisis. No more sleepless nights worrying about overdraft fees. 3 months after I'd locked my credit card, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but I recognized Brooklyn's handwriting immediately. 5 pages of manipulation disguised as an apology. We all make mistakes, but you took it too far. Mom cries every day. You've turned your back on blood. We're family, nothing changes that. She was right about one thing. We were family. But that made their betrayal even worse. It wasn't strangers who had stolen from me, it was the people who knew me best and chose to exploit that knowledge. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. I didn't need to respond. My silence was answer enough. 6 months later, I ran into my mother at a coffee shop downtown. Total coincidence, I was meeting Jackson for lunch, still in my scrubs from the morning shift, when I heard my name called. She looked smaller than I remembered, not just physically but in presence. Time had diminished her somehow, or maybe I had just learned to see her differently. Renley. She smiled like nothing had happened, like we hadn't gone to war over invoices and credit cards. Can we sit? We sat, and she talked first. No real apologies, just memory revision. We were just trying to hold things together. We didn't realize how much pressure we were putting on you. If we could go back, maybe we'd handle some things differently. No ownership. No mention of the fraud. No acknowledgement of Tyler's gambling or the years of lies. Just a vague wish that things could be different, as if our problems were caused by miscommunication rather than deliberate betrayal. Do you hate us now? She asked, her voice small. I considered the question seriously. No, I said finally. But I don't owe you anything anymore. But we're family. That's not an argument, I replied. That's an excuse. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. I hope you'll come back to us someday, she said, standing up. I already came back, I said calmly. I came back to tell you I'm not coming back. After she left, I opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $12,847, the exact amount from my invoice. No note, no explanation, just silence with a $sign. I didn't cash it right away. I pinned it to my bathroom mirror, where I could see it every morning while I got ready for work. A reminder of what I was worth, what I was no longer willing to sacrifice. Eventually, I did cash it. And I donated every penny to a scholarship fund for young nurses who were supporting their families financially while in school. Because somewhere out there was another version of me, breaking her back while her family pretended it was normal. Today, I'm writing this from my new apartment, a 1-bedroom with actual windows and a kitchen where I can cook real meals. Jackson and I are planning a trip to Europe next year, and for the first time in my life, I don't have to check my bank account before saying yes. My family still tries to contact me sometimes. A birthday card from my mother. A random text from Brooklyn. But I've learned that not every door that closes needs to be reopened. I used to think closure meant they would come to me with heads bowed, offering the apology I deserved. But closure wasn't their job, it was mine. And I found it not in forgiveness, but in the simple act of choosing myself. I'm still a nurse. I still take care of people. But now I take care of myself first, and that's made all the difference. The door I closed that day is still shut. And the key is in my pocket, where it belongs.